Hello my friends, a couple of days ago Ukraine hit the very significant part of the Russian oil refinery infrastructure in Ryazan. This is the big refinery complex. There were multiple of the kabooms of this facility and the distillation plant suffered critical damages. So this refinery is totally no-go. Well, at least for several months for sure. It shows that Ukraine continue to hit Russian refineries. It's the main goal to disturb Russian fuel logistics, and it works. Actually, Ryazan refinery is the biggest one of the Rosneft company. Rosneft is the biggest Russian oil company, so their biggest refinery is being stopped. I expect several months at least, because for Russia it is very hard to get those spare parts to repair refineries, because most of those facilities were modernized after the Soviet Union collapse using German and other European-made parts. So for now, if they want to change for China parts, they need to rebuild entirely those refineries, almost entirely, which obviously Russia cannot do because it would cost billions, billions and billions. So this big table actually shows those refineries which were hit or partially damaged. Here in amber you can see the dates where refinery was hit. Ryazan refinery, you may see, was hit 7 of the times, the last one the day before yesterday, and this Volga Neft Pereработка refinery was hit 8 of the times. So Ukraine totally cancels those, here it's no go. But still, Russia has lots of the refineries in operation, but Ukraine aims the biggest ones, as you see from this chart. Yeah, sometimes smaller ones, but the biggest, the most part of the big ones were hit. And soon Ukraine will have abilities with probably Flamingo missile to hit this one in Leningradsky Oblast, 810 kilometers away from Ukraine, and Yaroslav Nefteorg Syntes, also 700. Well, actually, Ukraine may hit those even now. I wonder why they're still okay there, because here, for example, 800 kilometers, it was hit 2 of the times. So Ukraine will hit those. Ukraine still has lots of the targets. So the biggest ones actually within the range of Ukrainian drones, so the top refineries. So potentially Russia might be left with Chinsky NPZ, so refinery, which is almost 3,500 kilometers away from Ukraine. This one small, and this small still could potentially be reached by Flamingo. So there are just few of the small refineries, relatively small, out of reach of Ukrainian drones and missiles. I think the most distant is this one, Khabarovsky refinery, 6,525 kilometers away. Crazy. So I'm sure that if it continues like that, Ukraine may cancel the Russian fuel production, jet fuel, benzene, even diesel. There are issues even now, but there could be even deeper issues for the Russian economy, for the Russian war machine. Well, still, Russia has partners like, for example, Belarus. But what I discovered and why Ukraine actually aimed towards the Druzhba pipeline that supplies Russian oil to Slovakia and Hungary, that the same pipeline is also used to supply oil to Belarus refineries. And later on, Russia gets fuel and diesel from that allied country. So it's not something like, oh, Ukraine hates Slovakia and Hungary government, that's why it hates Druzhba. No, just because that pipeline is very strategically important for Russia, for Russian military budget, and also for the Russian fuel production. That's why it's the legitimate target for Ukraine. And guys, I honestly do not remember if I said it in one of my videos or not, but Ukraine is willing to produce more ballistic missiles, for example, FP7 and FP9. I think I shared it on my Telegram. I think I haven't told it on this channel so far. Well, those missiles, one has the range up to 200 kilometers, could be used on the front lines and very close to Ukrainian border, and the other one has the range up to 855 kilometers. So potentially it may target lots of the refineries, as we saw on the map of those refineries and their distance from Ukraine. Very high speed, very high altitude, so it's almost impossible to intercept this one. Well, Ukraine has Patriot systems to intercept Russian Iskanders with PAK-3 missiles, which are out there in Ukraine for Patriots. Ukraine is in lack of those, but still sometimes Ukraine is capable to intercept Russian ballistics. But here Russia, well, what they have, S-400, S-300, which are not that capable for intercepting ballistics. They were made to intercept aerial targets, mostly airplanes, helicopters, but not ballistics. It's like extra function added, which works here and there. So I would say that Ukraine improves its capabilities. It's the Firepoint, the same company that produces Flamingo, FP1 drones. I think that company has the most of the investments. By the way, because Associated Press shared those kind of the images, it was agreed with the Ukrainian side. Russia already hit this facility. As they say, because we have the NASA satellite images report that for sure there was the Russian strike on reported position where those missiles are being assembled. But according to the Firepoint company, they say that they were not hit. Russia missed the location and it's the other one. But Russians already reported that they hit lots of the Flamingos and Ukraine is out of those missiles. We'll see what Russia may say, then those Flamingos fly massively on territory of Russia. Now we have some of the new videos from Primary unit. I guess they operate in Crimea, and this is the Russian radar. Yeah, of course, I already know this one. It's Podlot. It's actually the big one if it is deployed, and it was hit by Ukrainian drone. Sadly, we don't have one more surveillance drone flying around, so just this image, but here I'm sure that the vehicle and this radar was hit. As well as this one, this is the radar for the S-300 or S-400 system. I'm not sure whether it was hit, honestly, with the first drone, but here is the second one. We'll see if it hits this antenna. And yeah, the second strike was successful. Still, our drone producers have to work on precision and the robust signal for the drones to operate far away from Ukraine, but what we have already is also good. And that's the situation in Sevastopol with prices for the Russian benzene, so diesel is still out there, or premium benzene for a lot of money, but 95th standard and 92nd are absent. For now it's like that. But you see that diesel, well, it's more expensive, way more expensive than usual, but it is available, at least. For now, I see that Russia mostly cuts occupied territories of Ukraine from benzene, as Putin said, new Russian territories, but somehow they stay without water, benzene, reliable supplies, and basically normal life. So the real Russian peace or Russian world came to those parts, unfortunately. Also, I want to add here that Russia really mobilizes lots of the locals for the war against Ukraine. I mean, really mobilizes, unlike in Russia, 70% of the men in Donbass were conscripted to army, Russian army, or to Donbass militia, as they say. It has never happened, but it happened again. Poland says 2 drones enter airspace cause no damage, and they were not able even to intercept those. Maybe they didn't even try. It happened September the 4th, the day before yesterday. There are more and more of those cases than Russian drones accidentally fly to NATO airspace. And so far I see no action coming from NATO, from Poland. I think one more drone entered Poland airspace roughly 3 weeks ago, and Polish side promised to respond, but what kind of the response? There was nothing, really nothing. So Russia sees this weak reaction, and of course they will program drones to fly accidentally more to the NATO airspace. Romania, Poland, Baltic countries, of course. Russia needs to threaten those countries. You see, our drones already flying in your airspace and you do nothing. Just imagine what it could be if you try to deploy your forces, try to escalate, helping Ukraine more, like for example with long-range missiles. And unfortunately, politicians, they afraid, really afraid of Russia, from what I see. And they are very weak. Well, Fico went to Ukraine. Slovak Prime Minister greeted Zelensky in Uzhhorod city. That's the most western city of Ukraine, which is bordering Slovakia. Even the edge of the runway of Uzhhorod airfield is almost at Slovak territory. So this time Fico was more or less polite. Zelensky mentioned that they will continue to strike Russian oil infrastructure. I think he hinted at the Druzhba pipeline here. And Fico from his side reassured the support of the Ukrainian EU membership or Ukrainian way to join European Union. It was said for the first time to Ukrainian president directly from Fico, so the meeting was more or less polite, I would say. But Hungarian officials say that no, they're gonna block Ukrainian memberships, so Hungary plays this role of the bad police guy. This is crazy. This was shared, as you see, by the Russian defense, so-called defense, or maybe it should be renamed to offense ministry. Well, here they shared the video of how they hit Denmark volunteers, the group of Denmark representatives who were demining the local minefields left in Chernihiv Oblast. After Russians left this place, there were lots of the mines, but Russians say that those were drone operators launching some sort of the drones to the Russian side. However, you can see clearly a white vehicle, so it's definitely some sort of the organization. And we have this picture here showing people who were not wearing military uniform, for sure. I think that Russian strike, after all, was not precise. However, shrapnel could harm people and, of course, vehicles out there. Humanitarian mission was attacked, and this is the armor protection. You see, it's blue color, so it's not military. The armor protection for civilian mission to demine local fields. For those fields later to be used as agricultural normal one. And you see, they even marked this road as the mined area, so they were operating safely here, but the mining was happening here, maybe in the local forests also. You see how Russia continued to do the war crimes in Ukraine, not just against Ukrainians, but against some other countries, and they don't care. They publish it on their own official pages. And do you think there will be some of the circumstances for Russians? Absolutely not. If there were no any circumstances for Russia, then it shut down MH17. So in this case, it's the same. Like European politicians will share their concerns maximum. Yeah, in this video, not too much about Trump, but nevertheless, I have to say about his attitude to Russia. It is without any changes. He's even looking to greet Russia to Miami for G20 summit. Let's listen to it. He is not ruling out, at least, to welcome Putin there.
He's going to be a great leader of Poland, but I've invited Poland already.
Poland will be there? What about Russia?
I haven't thought of that. No, I haven't thought of that. That's an interesting question. I'm going to think about that for a little while.
He says no bloody dictator continue to demolish everything in Ukraine, including American factories, not even saying about civilians. Russian drones are flying to NATO. Russia is tightening its relations with China. No. Let it be Putin there on my G20 summit, which will go in Florida. He's still on this delusional train and he doesn't see what is happening despite his tweet, which he shared yesterday or the day before yesterday, where he posted that looks like we lost India and Russia to deepest, darkest China. Maybe they have a long and prosperous future together, President Trump. Was it the Trump's goal to tighten relations between those dictators? Well, maybe. It's basically the failure of the geopolitics from the United States of America. About the war in Ukraine, he stated that he stopped 7 of the wars. Well, before he said 7, then 10, now 7 back. Interesting, right? It's like $350 billion which United States spent for Ukraine. And here's his analysis about the current war in Ukraine.
And we're going to get the other one done too, but it turned out to be a little bit more difficult than I thought. And it'll get done or they'll be held to pay.
We'll get it done or they'll be held to pay, something like that, as I understood. So if we're not gonna finish it, it's gonna escalate. And yeah, it's gonna escalate because Putin is not willing to stop. Putin said about it openly during his recent conference. He basically said that, again, Ukrainian government is not a legitimate one, and he may speak with Zelensky for whatever reason if he really wants. Let him come to Moscow. And Americans already asked Zelensky to go to Moscow, but Zelensky refused because it's crazy. And Putin added that the chance for the peace agreement is very low, that he doesn't believe that there could be a peace agreement with the Ukrainian government, and they'll continue military actions. And this is basically the Putin's quote. That is what he says on his Russian plain language. But why Donny doesn't understand that? Maybe they need to hire proper translator for the Putin speeches for him to understand. I think he will never understand. He is completely out of reality. The roof is out there flying. He's our infamous patient on this channel, but I don't want to speak about him too much in this video. Maybe I'm gonna record one more dedicated to the possible escalation in Venezuela. And yeah, United States to cut some security funds for European countries bordering bordering Russia. Absolutely what we need right now. Yeah, by the time that Russia conducts military drills to threaten Europe, yeah, you should cut military or security funds for those countries, which are exactly bordering Russia. In Pentagon, they say that they follow the policy of Trump to revise the international help. The Baltic initiative of Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania is under the threat now. Yes, they have security initiative, which is working still, but probably in the nearby future it will not work any longer. European officials were shocked about this decision. Financial Times reports. Original of this article. I'm not subscribed, sorry. But I can read the same published in different sources. One more sign that Russia wants to continue this war for eternity. This guy is from Kherson Oblast, Kherson region of Ukraine, which has been occupied by Russia and still occupied. And by the time of the occupation, he was 15 years old. Russia took him away, so kidnapped basically, then they brainwashed him and he joined the Russian Boeing organization. He is already 18 years old. He will start his service soon in the Russian army as a conscript, but he wants to join a Russian contract army. Here he shares his greetings from one of the islands far east in Russia. His name is Kornei Andronikov, and he was, as I said to you, 15 years old boy by the time Russians kidnapped him. So Russians created this Voin organization. Voin means warrior. Yeah, it's even a military center, so they brainwash youngsters to join Russian military. It is youth organization, like it was in Nazi Germany, Hitler, Jungen. So here is the similar one. Just different name, they didn't want to associate it with Putin. Let's watch this Russian army advertisement, subtitles are here.
Если научишься смотреть выше облаков, всегда будешь попадать в яблочко. Найдешь безопасный выход из любой, даже чрезвычайной ситуации.
So yeah, it's the open advertisement for youngsters to join Russian army. For now, in organization warrior, but in a future perspective, it's a Russian contract professional army, if we may call it professional. And they already passed some of the military drills, exercise, they shoot, and yeah, it's clearly a rise of the mid-wave for the Putin's mid-wave attacks. So Russia plans to do it years and years ahead. From the kindergarten, they teach people what is war, how bad are Ukrainians in Ukraine, they're Nazis, we need to consolidate our forces for this war to liberate Russia on someone's territory. Yeah. One more lost generation out there for Russia, and unfortunately, they drag Ukrainian kids. That's why it's important to return those, so then it is not too late. And remember that letter from Melania Trump. Actually, I was surprised, and definitely it's a good step. Yeah, Melania Trump wrote the letter to Putin that Ukrainian kids should be returned back to Ukraine. But what Putin did, he just ignored this letter, no comments, nothing about it, like this situation is not happening. So actually it was some sort of the humiliation of Melania Trump, but Donald Trump himself, he doesn't care about it. But from what we see, Melania actually does more or less okay job. He points out the attention on Ukrainian kids, yes, and she also said to Donald Trump, as Donald Trump mentioned himself, that what the hell is happening, you talk to Putin, and just after he continued to bomb Kyiv, but Melania is out of the real levers to act on Donny to implement at least sanctions on Russia, and I don't think that Donny will do it. He has his own ideas on that, and it seems like he doesn't respect the opinion of his own wife. And you know, guys, I mentioned those Iran missiles, extended range aviation munition. We know that the United States is working to supply those to Ukraine, but the first package will go to Ukraine in 2026, and it could be the third quarter, so maybe summer or autumn, late summer or early autumn, something like that. Yeah, those are not good news, but Ukraine, as I say to you in this video, also is working on its own long-range projects, which could be accomplished way earlier than those missiles supplements. And here what you need to know about the Russian Orthodox Church, na SVO, donations for special military operation. Placed somewhere in church, you can see it clearly. Yeah, this is crazy. Guys, please check out my channel Dennis Davydov for more updates. For example, recently I published the information like 5 hours ago about the situation on the front lines, and actually there are some of the good news. Plus today I filmed a video especially for my Patreon supporters and the members of the channel who continue to support the job and motivate me to film more and more videos. So guys, the link for my Patreon page is in the video description just below. I do not promise that I'm gonna film those videos like every day or something, because I work alone on collecting information, filming, editing, so it takes time. Like every video takes me at least 3, sometimes 4 hours to publish. Even the thumbnail design takes half an hour, so I mainly do what I do like throughout the day. And also I have family, some family stuff, so sorry guys that I do not post very often on Patreon or membership, but I'll try to do it more often, that I can promise you. And guys, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.